I think that's, actors want to find meaty things like this where there is some sort of transition. Sometimes that isn't the case. So when you get to find a rich character like Ray, it's exciting. I also just really responded to the script right away. It's reminiscent of things that I loved as I started to fall in love with film, including obviously Coen Brothers, but even old westerns. I said this before, like High Noon, with the Standoff, and just old other really deep noirs, Maltese Falcon, and all the greats, Chinatown. Um, but set in a very interesting, silly world. So I thought that was a lot of fun, and the challenge of bringing this, mope, this, wet blanket guy, and finding a way to sort of stand up for himself and bring out the evil in him and also the good in him at the same time is really challenging, but a fun challenge for an actor. Again,
Uh,
ideally, every job you get to explore something new, but so much about this was new territory. It was a road that I wanted to travel, but oftentimes as an actor, uh, it's tough for people to maybe see you as something different. I don't think off the bat people would see me as a guy from Texas, like, that kind of guy. But luckily Shane thought that I could do it. And, you know, I, I think a lot of people see me East Coast, New York, but I did grow up in the Midwest, although that's different than Texas. I grew up in Ohio, and there were people like this around. So I felt like, I felt not a connection to the character, but like an awareness of these kinds of people, and I had an interest in playing that. So getting to play that sort of something that was a departure from what I've normally done, and also something more comedic than a lot of the stuff I've had the chance to do, was definitely a lot of fun. And then working off of Steve, who is so brilliant at that style, is just, a master lesson of how to do it. Fortunately, when you're doing an indie film here in the States, there's really it's, rehearsal is a luxury, and it doesn't happen. But I'm okay with that. Especially if you have good people to play with, and you have a great script like we did. You can really lean back onto that. And like Shane was saying, we all came into it with the on the same page, that we're going to play the scenes. We're going to let that be what's funny, that be the comedy, and just communicate with each other like actors are supposed to do, and not necessarily reach for the humor. Just let the humor kind of pour out of the situations. So, those diner scenes, it's just again, the stakes are enormously high. Like the first scene, he comes in, he finds out his wife's cheating on him. So there you go. That's high stakes right there. The second scene in the diner, he's just killed someone, and this guy knows he killed someone. The stakes are tremendously high there. So, like I said, Shane gave us these situations that if you just lean into and play and you have good actors, it can really start to cook. At the end of the day, Ray does some really terrible things. He murders people. He
yeah.
I won't spoil anything, but he murders somebody that even in those circumstances, I don't know if you should murder them. Um, so he's a bad dude by the end of the story. I think at the very end of the story, he does something to sort of redeem himself, but I don't know. I mean, he's pushed to the brink, and I don't think every story needs the protagonist to be clean and be a hero at the end of it. I think, life is muddy. Standing up for yourself at times is makes you do awful things. And I think that realness of the story is more interesting than him achieving happiness or achieving what he's supposed to achieve.
Yeah. Anyway, for me, Ray was forgiven because I'm not saying murdering people is okay, but within the story, it makes it right. You root
Yeah,
for
I mean,
him, you know?
I
You
think
go,
that's up to everyone how they want to take it. I don't want
yeah,
I like that's what something I love about making films and telling stories is that everyone can walk away with their, their own thoughts and their own interpreting. We can have a discussion about it. Yeah, so I love that people will walk away. I mean, I'm sure some people will walk away and be like, he's scum, he's the absolute worst, and he's still a pushover, and I hate him. And other people will be like, he's a hero. There's room for all of that stuff, and that's an exciting thing about making films.